Sorry, I was muted. Good afternoon, everybody. Testing the audio. If you can hear me, type your registration number and we begin. Okay, Martha, you are done. I believe everybody can hear. Today, I want to go back to the rules. When we last met, we handled area O, and I believe we shall be able to use those terminologies quickly. We'll just go back to display what we saw in area O before starting today's lecture. And I'll use this particular screen. From this screen, you can see that the name of area O is content form and media type. And this was introduced in 2009 after this document was reviewed in 2008. So area O has three elements: content form, content qualification, and media type. I'll display some of the examples of those patterns. And after that, I'll also display actual ISBD examples. So these are the pattern examples: content form, content qualification, and media type is an example where at least one of the elements appears. The combinations that follow are more complex, but the first one is the basic, where you have a content form term, a content qualification, and a media type with these punctuations. It is the content qualification that is enclosed in those brackets, and the media type is given after a space colon space. I want today to see if it will work. If you have a question, you unmute yourself. I've seen some people raising hands. Gloria, you are allowed to talk. So, yeah.
Your screen, you're talking of area O, but your screen has been off.
Oh, okay. I'll go back to that. Thank you. I'll first stop the share and then share again. And Gloria, confirm if you can see my screen. It has also said participants can now see your application. So I believe everybody can see the screen. I see in the chat, yeah, okay. Now everybody can see my screen. I'll go backwards one more time. I did mention that area O is referred to as content form and media type. And the three elements in this area are content form, content qualification, and media type. And the examples I wanted to display are in the slide after this. And the basic pattern would have a content form, content qualification, and media type. So this is the basic pattern that you can generate. And the punctuation device we use for content qualification we must enclose it in square brackets, whereas before giving the media type, we apply a space, colon space, and that is where I was before rectifying the screen. Fast forward, we have terms we use for content form. Whereas for books, we have been using text. Other terms we shall use include data set, image, movement, etc. And at what point do we use these? I did not explain this yesterday. When would you pick image, for instance? When would you pick data set? I'll first stop the share and then share again. But this time, I'm going to the internet. And I have confirmation participants can now see my application. Where am I picking this? I go to Mwere. Please, Mwere is not there as a formality. All materials that would want you to look at, we upload them in Mwere. And I've tried as much as possible after every lecture, I upload the presentation in Mwere. So I'm moving to the course. Of course, these are courses I've been accessing of recent, but this is what I want. I click and I'm already in the course. I also ensure that you can see my screen as if I'm a student. So the way you view it now is exactly the way you will view it when you go there. So I scroll down to the content that I'm interested in you seeing. I hope you viewed those videos. The content I want you to look at, not necessarily now, it is this PDF file. This PDF file is more detailed compared to the PowerPoint file there. So the PowerPoint is a summary or a brief of this. So I want to open that PDF now, if it allows, and this is how it looks like. I'll try to maximize. Oh, I fit. Wow. How do I undo? I turned it over. I just wanted to reduce. If you look at this document, and it was released in 2009, that is when Area O was implemented. I'm moving to that part of the document. You will excuse me, I'm a bit fast. I'm moving to that part of the document that explains the terms. And here I am. I'll maximize one more time. When do we use data set, for instance? The definition and scope of the term will be given this side. And this is when we use data set, it refers to content expressed by digitally encoded data intended to be processed by a computer. And the examples we have are numeric data, environmental data, for instance, used by application software to calculate averages, correlations. But they also give us what is excluded. And these are digitally recorded music, because we already have music somewhere there. Then language, the spoken word sounds. So we need to know which term to apply and when. But I will have to read what is here. For image, when do we use image? This is for content expressed through line, shape, shading, and Wow. I hope my screen. Okay. I get it. Chandi and all the rest, they are not seeing the screen. So I'll stop the share. Share again. And pick the PDF. I'm sharing now. If you can see it, I believe everybody can see it now. I just need to confirm that you are seeing it. Yeah, so everybody can see. Namirali, confirm that you are seeing. At least Mary has confirmed. Okay. Now, the PDF you are seeing now, it is available on Mwere. That is where I downloaded it from now. But I think as I was shifting from Mwere, when I clicked on it, and then automatically I had to reshare the screen. So the terms for content form are listed on the left, and on the right, they tell you when you are supposed to use it. So they define the term and then the scope of the term. When is it used? So image is what I wanted to focus on. When do we use the term image for content form? This is content expressed through line, shape, and shading intended to be seen using eyes or perceived visually. An image can be still, that is when there is no motion or moving, and it can be in 2, 3 dimensions, but now we also have 5 dimensions. And the examples include art reproductions, maps, photographs, remote sensing images, motion pictures, etc. So assuming you are cataloging a photograph, it would mean that for content form, the term to use is image. If you are cataloging a map, the same will apply. The content form term to use will be image. It will not be text. However, we have other terms: movement, music, object. We saw yesterday that if we are cataloging a globe, then we shall use object. So I will request you to look through this document. There is even spoken word. If you are cataloging, and the examples are given here, a radio broadcast, oral history recordings, audio recordings of plays, then for our content form, we shall use spoken word. Text is here, they are defining it, and they tell us we use it when we are dealing with books, whether printed or electronic. So that is what I wanted to emphasize in this document. I'll close or stop the share. And when I do that, I'll be ready to begin today's lecture. And in case you have questions, you raise them before I begin. For today, what I'm covering is on your screen by now. It is handwritten in that very wonderful handwriting. If you can read what I'm projecting, confirm that by just typing 1. And then I begin. Type 1 if you can see. Okay. So normally when I see one person typing, then the rest you might not need to type. So I want to look at the general rules for describing or for cataloging. You will notice that this presentation is handwritten, but of course, because we have embarked on online learning. I've also started preparing one which is word processed. So when we start to catalog, there are sources of information that we use. For instance, if we want to identify the title of a publication, we must get that title from somewhere. So that is what we refer to as source of information. And the rules, that is ASCR2, tells us what to do. Whatever you are seeing here, I'll just write this for you. We are getting it from ASCR2. I hope you can see the box I've drawn. The general rules are originating from ASCR2. I don't know how I will shift it. I wanted to put it here for you, but either way, these rules come from ASCR2. I'll just remove that. Sources of information. Prefer information. I want to take this away. Prefer information found in the chief source to information found elsewhere. If you are cataloging a book, please, Joanita, you don't need to read. I'll be reading for you. Whatever is on the screen, I'll be reading. And then I also project what is word processed later. But I thought there was something in this unwritten one that I needed to emphasize. So the sources of information, prefer information found in the chief source to information found elsewhere. If you are cataloging a book, ensure that the information you use is from the book itself. That is what we refer to as the chief source. If you are cataloging a video and that video is a film, then the film will be the chief source of information. You don't rely on information found elsewhere. In case you need to get information from somewhere else, then the rules tell us to enclose in square brackets information taken from outside the prescribed source. So if I was cataloging a film, and then for me to establish who directed the film, I consult some other source, then that information will be enclosed in square brackets. That is about sources of information. How have we been cataloging? All this is given in the organization of the description. The description, or the entry for that matter, is divided into the following areas. And you will notice now we are reviewing what we did in the first semester until when we get to that point of where we are. Number one, you will notice that area O is not here. The description is divided into the following areas. Insert area O, which by now everybody knows I need to write or to type, and you allow me to type what I'm typing above there. So what is not captured is area O. That is how I would be labeling it. But now I don't even need to use that. We know the name, it is content, form, and media type area. And what I've just typed will appear first. So this should appear there first before moving to title and statement of responsibility. And after title and statement of responsibility, we have the edition area. The next one is the material or type of publication, specific details. And that is something we shall be seeing maybe in the next lecture. Publication, distribution area. All of us are familiar with that. The way we handled this area doesn't change. It only changes when we start looking at non-book materials. There's the physical description area where we record the pagination of a document, series, area, note area, standard number, and terms of availability area. So those are the areas that constitute our description. Today, I intend to look at the title and statement of responsibility area because we are done with the content form and media type area. So before moving to that, allow me to delete this because we might not need it now. I'll just remove it. So for each of the areas, there are particular punctuation devices we use, and I'll just go through them, leave alone. We have already used them, we know them. Precede each area other than the first area. The first area now is area O, or even the first area. We precede each area other than the first area or each occurrence of a note or standard number area by a full stop, space, dash, space. What this means is that unless we are starting a new paragraph, all areas start with this punctuation. That is a space, full stop, space, dash. Here it was written in words, but this is how it looks like. So when we are starting a new area, ensure that you use this punctuation device. For instance, if we were writing the addition statement, we would first put that punctuation device. If we were writing the place of publication and other details, that is the punctuation device to use. I'll remove that. Unless the area begins a new paragraph. You notice that when we are giving Roman pages and other details, we normally start a new paragraph. And when we start a new paragraph, then we don't give that punctuation device. Precede each mark of prescribed punctuation by a space and follow it by a space. In other words, they are emphasizing this, that when we use any punctuation device, we start that punctuation with a space, that is the precede, and then we shall follow it by a space. And we have been doing that. So precede each mark of prescribed punctuation by a space and follow it by a space. But we have exceptions, except the comma. For the comma, full stop, hyphen, and opening and closing parentheses and square brackets. So all those punctuations I've mentioned, the comma, the full stop, the hyphen, the opening and closing parentheses and square brackets, we will not necessarily precede each of them by a space and follow them by a space. And this is emphasized in the next line. The comma, full stop, hyphen and closing parentheses and square brackets are not preceded. In other words, we don't start with a space before them. Which ones? A comma, a full stop, hyphen, the closing parentheses, and square brackets are not preceded by a space. Why? Those are the rules. The hyphen and opening parentheses and square brackets are not followed by a space. The hyphen and the opening parentheses and square brackets are not followed by a space. In other words, for instance, when I type hyphen, that is the hyphen. It is not followed by a space. And then if I was typing the opening parenthesis, that one, I will not leave a space before maybe typing Great Britain. If I leave a space, this is how it will look, Great Britain. So they are telling us, don't follow it by space, so you remove that space. And then, of course, if it was a square bracket, a square bracket would be like that. Don't leave a space before writing your ND, for instance. If the closing would be there. Don't leave a space after that opening one. So you remove that space. And then even the closing one, don't leave that space. So I remove it. That is what those statements were emphasizing. And I want to remove that and also go to the chart and confirm if things are okay. If where I've reached, you are following, just type 1. Yes, Martina is following. If you are not following, just type Z. Okay. Everybody is following. Mary Gloria is not following. Mary, I'm going to force you to follow. How? We shall do some exercise. And then you'll get on board. It is only one person not following at the moment, but we are going to follow. Everybody should be able to follow. I will proceed with this presentation. And in fact, what I'm reading out is already stated in the rules. There is nothing I've changed because that is how the rules state. Precede the first element of each area other than the first area, or the first element of an area beginning a paragraph by a full stop, space, dash, space. This is emphasizing what we saw earlier. In other words, I will even type for clarity. Oh, sorry. I have this one, which I don't want. I want to type, not to write. They are telling us that when we are starting a new area, assuming it is the addition area, I leave a space. I've already typed a space, full stop, space, and the dash should be followed by a space. Basically, that is what they are telling us, except in those areas where we start a new paragraph. For instance, if I was typing Roman pages and then the Arabic pages, I don't need to put the full stop space dash space there, because this is a new paragraph. And then also when I'm writing notes like index, if the book has an index and I've started a new paragraph there, I don't need to put that punctuation device, which is a space, full stop, space, dash, space. So I'll just remove that and we proceed. Back to the next one, when the element is not present in a description. In other words, you are describing a book, for instance, there is no edition. What do we do? When the element is not present in a description, precede the first element that is present by a full stop, space, dash, space, instead of the prescribed preceding punctuation for that element. We shall get an example of this. For instance, what I will do, I'll give an example which is not so common because we have not come across it. If I was supposed to write the Roman pages, that is 12, and then the Arabic 546. What would happen if this book had no Roman pages? Then it would appear like that. If I've started a new paragraph, it would appear like that. But if I wasn't starting a new paragraph, I would leave a space, full stop, space, and then the dash with a space. And I want to repeat this. When the element is not present in the description, precede the first element. Now the Arabic pages have become the first element. That is present by a full stop, space, dash, space, instead of the prescribed preceding punctuation. Remember, normally we put a comma here, but since the Roman pages are not there, the rules tell us to use the space, full stop, space, dash, space. And this, we have not experienced it so far. This is the first time we are doing it. So I'll remove this. And then indicate an interpolation by enclosing it in square brackets. Interpolation, what does it mean? I will have to write again. If I was writing this, I hope everybody is following. Please go to the chat. And Naomi says she's not understanding anything. That is good. Then we shall have more time for you. Those who are understanding, go to the chat and type what I've just typed, including Naomi. At least from this point, you should understand. I'm explaining what interpolation means. I need the people to type. Gloria, and there's a user who has typed Makere. I didn't type Makere. Mary, you have typed what I did type. And now I'm moving to interpolate. The rest, please just watch what I'm doing on my screen. So they are telling us indicate an interpolation by enclosing it in square brackets. So when you look at this, if this is what was given on your item you are cataloging, this I think was supposed to be marketed. So if you are to indicate that you have corrected by adding what is missing, whatever you add, you put it in square brackets. So what I've just added, this K in square brackets, is what we refer to as an interpolation. So indicate an interpolation by enclosing it in square brackets. I hope now that is clear. I'm writing it in the chat such that I confirm that people saw what an interpolation is. So now can you confirm that now you know what an interpolation is in the chat? I want us to follow from this, and then what wasn't clear, that one we shall get back to it later. Now, we are waiting for you to confirm that you at least know how to interpolate. Hey. So the network has jammed now, Okay, that is okay. Pius, in the chat, type for us any word where you have interpolated. When you do that, then now may also interpolate. Problem is I can't see what you are doing until when you have submitted. Should we wait? Pius, should we wait for you? I'm not seeing what Pius is doing, so I cannot continue waiting. Anyone who has understood what interpolation is, just type in the chat. You don't need to type a PEM you have not interpolated. You don't need to type what I typed. You could use another word. And I'm okay, that is okay, but we would rather use some other example. Justin, wonderful. I'm waiting for Naomi and Pius. Hey, Nachivinge, I have seen. Okay, so interpolation, we are done. We are good to go. Indicate the omission of part of an element by the mark of omission. Now, we are starting to understand some of these punctuations we were using earlier. When you look at my screen, what I'm pointing at, or what I'm rounding off, this is what we call the mark of omission. When we started this semester and we handled the 4 or more authors, you saw this mark. This is what we call the mark of omission. And when do we use it? When we omit some content. So we indicate the omission of part of an element by the mark of omission. So we were using this when we were eliminating some authors. But of course, we could use that same mark of omission if we were eliminating some other content from our entry. And we shall get examples of that. Please don't continue interpolating. We have now understood what interpolating is. Let us proceed with this presentation. First of all, I remove this. and we continue. I wonder whether I'm in the wrong place or the right one. I moved so fast. So having looked at the mark of omission, precede and follow the mark of omission by space. So what this means is that this mark of omission, those 3 dots, there is a space there and there is a space after. That is what we mean, precede and follow the mark of omission by space. So preceding, that is at the beginning, and then following is after. I will continue. Omit any area or element that does not apply in describing an individual item. So we have seen situations where some areas don't apply to a document. And a good example I can give is the addition. If a material does not have an addition statement, then we just omit the area and we move to the next area. We also omit its prescribed preceding or enclosing punctuation. If we don't have a place of printing a name of printer, then we don't need to put the enclosing punctuation, which is the parenthesis. Do not indicate the omission of an area or element by the mark of omission. If, for instance, when I have a document and I'm using this space, if this document was printed in Kampala, I'll type Kampala. And if the name of the printer is Makerere University Kampala Press, we used to have a university press. If that is the name of the printer and it is printed in 2021, this is how we would transcribe or record that information. Now, in case our publication does not have this information, it means all this will not appear. We shall leave that area. How? By omitting it, and we also omit the enclosing punctuations. These ones, we don't need to put them there and then we leave them blank. We also don't put them there completely. That is what this statement means. Also omit its prescribed preceding or enclosing punctuation. And then we shall not use the mark of omission. For instance, the space, and then we put the mark of omission, the 3 dots, and the space, and then we say we omitted that area because the details are not there. So the rules tell us not to even put a mark of omission. I hope that one has started making sense. I move to the last one, where I have an example in there. But of course, as a practice, I check in the chat and confirm that nobody is left behind. When adjacent elements within one area are to be enclosed in square brackets, enclose them in one set of square brackets unless one of the elements is a GMD. And this becomes more interesting because this does not apply anymore. It is this element, this one, it was deleted. Why? It was replaced by area O. So this might not be a good example because when it was still in force, like you see down here, it will be enclosed in square brackets, but now we no longer use it because it was replaced by area O. So this one is no longer true. So GMD does not apply anymore. So this example might not be good enough. But when it was active, what the rules were telling us was when adjacent elements within one area are to be enclosed in square brackets, we enclose them in one set of square brackets, unless one of the elements is a GMD, which is always enclosed in its own set of square brackets. So the rules previously would require us to put the GMD in square brackets, whereas this is next to something which is also in square brackets. The rules would not allow us to use one set, simply because this was GMD, but this GMD no longer exists. But the second example is what I'm going to use to explain this further. So I will move to this position and indicate to you, allow me to make this big. What you see above, I want to move away from somewhere there. So I'm going to reproduce this before it turned into what you see. Kampala. This is, you have a publication, and these details were not given, and you get them from somewhere else. So this is how it was: Kampala, space, colon, space, MK, publishers, and then square bracket, comma. Remember, comma is not preceded by a space, but it is followed by a space. And it also 2010 was also in square brackets. Now, I want to first explain what I've just typed. Why all these are in square brackets? It means this information was got from outside the book. For instance, the book being cataloged did not have these details. For instance, if you look at the posters people are throwing around, they don't indicate that they were printed from or published from Kampala, but most likely all those posters were printed from Kampala. So when we get this information which is not on the material, we enclose it in square brackets. But according to this statement, when adjacent elements within one area are to be enclosed in square brackets, we enclose them in one set of square brackets. So that is why, instead of writing Kampala with its square bracket, MK Publishers with its own, and 2010 with its own, we, according to the rules, must use just one set of square brackets. And that is the example which is written here. So originally it would have been this, but because all Kampala, MK Publisher, and 2010 are in the same area and they are next to each other, then we shall use one set of square brackets. And if you have understood that, in the chat room, please type an example. I know some of you with the phones, you might fail to get the square bracket. And the Nachin too, you have raised your hand. I am, let me see if I can allow you to speak. Nachin, to where are you? And please don't run away when in fact, what you do, Nachintu, unmute yourself and then speak. Vanessa, I've allowed you to talk. Nachintu, talk. Nachintu, I'm asking you to unmute and talk because you raised your hand. If she's not talking, we continue in our chat. And I've not seen anybody typing. I'll give another, okay. Namilari, I don't see the square brackets. So, she was saying pardon and I wasn't hearing. Okay, I wasn't hearing anything. Naomi, now I want, please, all others wait for Naomi. I want, Namirari says the square brackets are not on the phone. Please, you can throw away that phone which doesn't have square brackets. I'll just confirm on mine that those things are there. You go to symbols if your phone has that option. Oh, I might be confusing the laptop with the phone. But it must be there. But Namirari's phone doesn't have square brackets. So I wanted the Naomi to retype what she has submitted before enclosing it in square brackets, but I think if she has used one set of square brackets, then she knows, just like Miss Such has done. Miss Such is dreaming about 2040. Yeah, I understand your government will still be around. Okay, now let us proceed. Whenever I go to the chat and I confirm that people are following, then I move. So I'm just removing this when adjacent elements are in different areas. Now we have an example when adjacent elements are in different areas. They tell us to enclose each element in a set of square brackets. The example on the screen, this addition, and sorry, it's not giving me a good pointer. So I'll remove this and then use this. So this addition and this place are adjacent to each other, but the addition is in a different area and the ginger is also in a different area. This is in the addition area, the second addition, and the ginger is in the publication distribution area. Whereas ginger is in square brackets and the addition is also in square brackets and they are adjacent to each other, we shall not put them in single square brackets. Why? They are in different areas. So please take note of that. So when we have adjacent elements and they are in different areas, we enclose each element in a set of square brackets, just like in this example. Each of these is in its own set. So you will notice that this is in its own set and also ginger is in its own set. Meanwhile, I'll just remove this and then we see what happens if we have mistakes. The mistakes are the ones I'm referring to as inaccuracies. This is what I'll be doing next, but after stopping the share, I will go to the chat. I've seen more examples. A PEMO, we are not using the brackets you have used. Those are not square brackets. But of course, I know maybe you failed to see square brackets, but then this is a misrepresentation of what we are doing. We can't use any other bracket instead of the square. I can see Atemu as the square bracket on their phone, so it has come, or maybe it is a computer. Now, I wanted to divert a bit. Such that you know where we are heading. I'll just go back where we are. Inaccuracies, when I'm done with the inaccuracies, in other words, we are learning how to record or to catalog materials when we know there is something which is not accurate. And it is after looking at these inaccuracies that I'll be looking at how we transcribe the title and statement of responsibility. And with that, before I start inaccuracies, I want to answer questions, and people are happy with their technophones. If you have a technophone, now you have seen it is not compliant with the square brackets, so you need to replace it. I don't see any question, so I'll go and then look at inaccuracies. And what is something that is inaccurate? It means it's not correct. Transcribe an inaccuracy or a misspelled word as it appears in the item. Follow such an inaccuracy either by SIC in square brackets or by IE and the correction within square brackets. Supply a missing letter or letters in square brackets. In fact, the interpolation we saw earlier is one way of correcting an inaccuracy. And the example here, the music world. So you have seen, I'm not saying you have seen, let me show you that this word, music, was misspelled. So one way of correcting it is by inserting, by the way, I'd missed it out, is by putting that SIC in square brackets after the misspelled word, and then you continue. In the second example, this central, this was supposed to be Central Broadcasting Service, which you call CBS. The word central is misspelled. So how do we correct it? After the misspelled word, you put the word SIC in square brackets, and then you continue. This is what we would write in our entry. The first and second are the same examples, indicating how we handle in the same way. Then the third one, which is Pearl of Africa. Africa, the word Africa is misspelled. How do we fix this? Now, the other way of fixing this inaccuracy is by writing the incorrect word. After it, we put square brackets, IE, and then write the right spelling. I hope someone is telling you how to get square brackets. in the chat. Thank you. So this is the second way of correcting an inaccuracy. How do you do it? You write the incorrect word, and then just immediately after it, using square brackets, i.e., and then you would write the correct one and close the square bracket. And then in the last example, I have what you should know about marriage and why. The author's name had been written, missing out the T. So Senteza, the name Senteza has a T. So it is this T that was missing, and I've interpolated or I've added it there, but it must be in square brackets. So I'll just erase those marks, and then our next item to look at is area 1. So for this afternoon, what I started with is to look at the sources of information. When we are cataloging, where do we get the information we use? And we mentioned that it is the chief source of information, or the item. And then from that, I looked at the punctuations that we use when we are writing our entries. And I've just concluded how we handle inaccuracies. And what comes next is area 1. Area 1 is what we are covering next. But before that, Miss Search is asking, what about Africa? And I'm typing it in the chat. If Africa had been misspelled, the way we handle that a problem is by writing what I'm typing. You just check in the chat when I'm done. So that is how we would correct that wrong spelling of the continent Africa. And I hope that was all that was there to fix. Stephen says, how do we determine what to use when highlighting the inaccuracies? That will be your choice. We have seen the various ways of correcting inaccuracies. So it is upon you, the cataloger, to determine which one works best. So this handwritten presentation, other than showing you that in area 1, which is title and statement of responsibility area, in the rules, when you go to the rules, these numberings are the numberings of the rules. In ASCR 2, there's a preliminary rule which deals with the punctuation and source of information. Then they move to title proper. And after title proper, what comes next is what I need to remove because it does not apply anymore. GMD does not apply. Why? It was replaced by area O. I hope that now makes sense. So when you get the rules, whereas in the rules, you'll still find this rule 1.1c, which deals with GMD. Please take note, it was replaced by area O, and the area O is given in the PDF document I displayed earlier. So for you, you'll get this PDF document from Wede. So please take note of that. that whereas on my screen I'm displaying the GMD, this has been overtaken by area O. So moving forward, after the title proper, we shall handle parallel titles, other title information, and statements of responsibility. What I liked in these handwritten notes is what I'm scrolling down to show you, such that when we get back to it, you understand. Look at where I'm going to point. When we start looking at the title proper, you will notice that we start referring to subfield A, which in Mark 21 is field 245. So what we learned in core will start making sense. That when we go to core, when we are typing or entering the title proper of a given document, we go to tag, which I've called field here, 245. That is where we shall type the title. And if it is title proper, it is under subfield A. And that is in the machine readable cataloging language. Allow me to move downwards, and then we see what we shall be seeing later. Allow me to move this, and I need to erase that, but I want to go to another element which will be demonstrating just what I've just shown. This one becomes messy. It is here. These arrows where they are pointing. For parallel titles, when we are recording the parallel title, it is subfield B, but still under the tag of field 245. So that is why I thought that I would still use these notes, leave alone the handwritten, but let us first stop here and say that we shall not allow to be left behind. Let us see how we shall record the title. And now, I hope if you can see my screen, just type the heading of what you are saying before I start. In the chat room, type what you are seeing on your screen. Okay. Yes, of course, others will not type. They are waiting for you to type. So now I'm in something which is readable. Joanita, I think now, yes, you will not accuse me of not being able to word process. How do we record the title proper? A title proper is a requirement. It is a core element. You cannot catalog a book and then you fail to indicate the title proper. So that is why I'm emphasizing this, that it is a required field for you to fill. A title proper is the chief name of a resource. In other words, just like you have your surname, even books, assuming you are cataloging books, what identifies them is the title proper. That is why I'm stating title proper is the chief name of a resource. It is the focus for identifying the preferred source of information. In other words, if you know the title proper, then more or less you have already gotten what you want. An alternative title is treated as part of the title proper. So for some books, they have alternative titles. And please, we need to differentiate alternative title from other title. The title proper excludes any parallel titles proper, other title information, and parallel other title information. So when we talk about title proper, it doesn't include parallel title or other title or parallel other title information. So title proper is title proper. And this title proper is recorded in the mark field 245. And this field 245 has subfield A, subfield B, subfield C. I want to first stop the share. And when I stop the share, I want to share another screen for core. That is if I get it so quickly. Where is the core? Core might not be on my screen, so I have to put it there. I will just pick the core presentation and I hope it will show for you. I just want to show you that field. I'm sharing now the tag 2, where we find 245. And allow me to magnify. I hope you can see. You see 245 down there. The subfield A, subfield B, and subfield C. Subfield A is for the title proper. Subfield B is for other title, but in this software, they call it remainder of title. Then subfield C is statement of responsibility. This is all I wanted to show you on this screen. I'll stop the share, go back, and pick our presentation where we were. So I was just showing you that this data is recorded in a mark field 245, where we have subfield A, B, and C. So if you are cataloging online, whichever software you are using, because normally these are made to be standard, you'll find that the title proper goes under this field 245. And specifically under 245, it will go under subfield A. Next slide. Where do we get the source of information for title proper? In other words, where do we find the title proper? If the information does not appear on a source forming part of the source itself, take it from one of the following sources. In other words, if you have a book and you don't see the title proper, then that is when you will go to check the accompanying material. For instance, a leaflet. 2, you can check the container, which can be a box. 3, we can check other published description of the resource. And 4, we can check any other available source. But for us, for books, it is even specifically stated if we want the title, we go to the title page. But that is the source itself. And these only apply if we can't see that information on the resource itself. Next, how shall we record the title proper? Title proper transcription is title proper recording in our entry. Transcribe a title as it appears on the source of information. If the title has an error, the rules tell us transcribe a title as it appears on the source of information. Do not correct errors for books. Monographs are books. In other words, if we find an error in the title of a book, the rules are telling us do not correct errors. We shall also not record sick or IE like we saw earlier. Instead, give a note to explain. So when we are recording the title proper, please do not correct errors you find in the title proper. Otherwise, just give that correction you want to give, you give it in the note area. And further, they tell us do correct errors for serials and integrating resources. Now, serials and integrating resources are those other materials which are not books that we shall be dealing with in area 3. So for them, it is important that any error we find, we have to fix it. But for books, do not correct errors. That is how we shall record the title proper. I will move to the next slide, where we have some examples where the title propers have been captured. Following the ASCR2, and these are the rules I'm using, but I need also to update you that these rules were replaced by RDA. RDA in full is resource description access. So just like we saw the development of the cataloging codes from AA or ASCR2, of course, from 1, 2, and those various editions. After ASCR2, we have RDA. But this, I will need to explain it better by showing it to you. I'll share my screen, go online, and then share. I'll remove this. Wow. Okay, screen sharing has stopped because I removed something. I am not continuing with that. I'm going online to pick the document because it is already there. So I've just searched for ASCR2 cataloging rules, and you will notice in this document, the rules started with ASCR. This is the first edition, second edition, revised edition. But after this, there is something new. So you'll find the time and the access this document, which talks about Anglo-American cataloging rules, the various versions. When you browse through, you start with the ASCR, and of course there's a table of contents. This makes it easier. They give you the background, the first edition, the version of 67, then the second edition, there was a version of 1978, then there was the concise, the revised, then how can we access this online? Unfortunately, you will need to subscribe. So This is a big challenge to us. If this had been subscribed to by the university, then wherever you are will be able to access the rules. And then why I brought this to you is because of this toward resource description and access. So whereas we are learning how to use ASCR2, we have already moved to RDA. So please, I wanted you to take note of that. We already have textbooks in this library on resource description and access. There are 50 copies in case we have not lost any. So this is something I will ask you to read about. But in this document, still you can see for each of the revisions, there is a comment which would be good for you. These rules were also revised in 1998. So when you go to the library, please seek the latest, not those old ones. This is where you could access the 2002 revision, but you need to first subscribe. Personally, I've not subscribed, so I can't have access to this. So that is something to think about. What am I doing with my mouse? Is okay. It was enlarging. It is enlarging this when I want to scroll. I don't know what I do now. So this is the RDA that I was referring to. So please, you will find time to look at this document. So I'm stopping this share. What do you search for to get to it? You'll search for Anglo-American cataloging rules, and then you'll get that document. Back to our presentation, and it confirms you can see my screen, so I will continue. And I was at this slide where it says ASCR2 record for a monograph. So using the rules, how do we record the title proper for a book? Monograph is the same as book. Under field 245, in subfield A, they have written a title which has an error. Tuesdays is misspelled. If we were using the ASCR2 rules, we would record the wrong thing, and then in brackets, we would put the right one and complete the title proper. But this is in ASCR2. However, if we follow the resource description and access rules, it now conforms to what we stated earlier, that we don't change anything in the title proper. In other words, we go to subfield 245. In subfield A, we shall write the title proper exactly as it appears without changing anything. Questions? And maybe now you understand why I was laboring to introduce what RDA is and how RDA handles things. In ASCR2, this is what we shall do. We shall give the wrong spelling. We fix the spelling error. But again, if we move forward to follow what replaced ASCR2, we shall give the title proper with its error without changing anything. And then if we are cataloging online, there is another field 246 where they give us an option of writing the corrected title. And that is exactly Tuesday's tasks. and they tell you that corrected title is in this field 246. And then there is another example for a serial publication, but let us concentrate on this one for a book. I'll first check the chart and get readers. She's asking, let me start with the Ashraf. So for our cataloging, are we going to use AACR2 or RDA? I will answer this way. This is very easy to answer. When you go to the course outline, and I think I need to go there now, such that people see what we set out to cover. I will share my screen and also explain what we go through when we are teaching. I'm sharing the course outline now. Can you see? Yeah, you can see the screen now. And I want to show you the content. What am I supposed to cover? A review, blah, 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 books, editorial publications, online cataloging, using core, the general rules, where we are now. We started with area O. I'm handling area 1. And in all this, and I want to first go to the end, you will notice that I'm silent about which rules we are going to cover. In all this, I'm silent about which rules, but under the course description, it is clear this course introduces students to the concepts related to bibliographic description of documents using AACR2. But it will be a disservice to you to be in Makerere for 3 years and I don't inform you that these rules changed. And I'll give you many, many examples in our day-to-day life. There are roads in Kampala which are no longer two-way. They are one-way roads. But these are changes that have happened. So you continue using it as a two-way road, you are fine. So we want you to live easily when you know what is trending. So as I teach you AACR2, I borrow from the resource description and access rules such that I update what is in AACR2. So it doesn't harm you for you to learn what is current. So I'll continue teaching AACR2, but also update you on the resource description and access. So that was an answer to Namirali. And then there was another one, which I'm yet to see. Where is it? Where is it gone? So for our cataloging, are we going to use AACR2? And I'll just say both. So whichever I teach, you will also use. But of course, with the time, until that time when we move completely to RDA. But one thing to note is that RDA mainly handles digital materials. So if your library has digital materials, then please consult the RDA first. because it is specifically handling such materials. I will move, and there's something that is informing how I move. I've noted that our participants for the lecture are reducing. So maybe that needs to be addressed. It should be a data issue. I will wind up with this slide for today, meaning that we are done with the title proper. So when we meet next, I'll start with the parallel title. So thank you for attending. Let us meet next week. Today's lecture has been a bit long. I think it is because I'm working from Islis. In Islis, I use wireless. At home, I use data. So I think that explains why I was going on and on and on. So have a nice evening, and thank you for attending. If you don't have any questions, you can log out, and I also close the meeting.